Hi, it's Rob Ledgar. I'm here with Brian Nash, aka Nasher. Nasher, just tell us a little bit about your background and musical history.
I was born in 1963 in the year of Beatlemania. Went to school, learned some stuff, but didn't come out of it with any paperwork to say that I had. Was an apprentice electrician for a little bit, then joined Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Went for a party around the world for 4 years. The world came crashing in at the end of that. Couldn't get another record deal. Went back to being an electrician. Carried on making music. Made 3 solo albums. Been in a couple of bands with other people. Produced a couple of records. Wrote an autobiography. Recorded an audio book of said autobiography. And just finished recording a new album called 4321 Open the Vein.
And that title, 4321, just tell us what that is.
We have a thing about tuning, and this is for the musicians really. The international standard of tuning is the note of A equals the frequency of 440 hertz. The noise that 440 hertz generates is the note of A, and that is your tuning reference, and everyone tunes from that. But other people say that A should equal 432, and the reason for this is that if A is 432, middle C is 256, which will, if you half it and half it and half it, will divide down to 1. And at no other pitch, no other tuning does it do that. Music is, at 432 is supposed to be more soothing and more of an inward experience rather than an external experience. And when you start going down the 432 versus 430 rabbit hole on YouTube, you can see this thing, the debate goes on forever. Yeah. But I think it sounds better. Guitars and acoustic instruments sound better at 432, I think. So, being a bit of a hippie, I decided to record this whole album in 432. And so that's the 432 of the title. The 1 is myself, because I played everything on the record. No one else contributed to it apart from the guys who mixed it and mastered it. And the Open the Vein is what happened when I went into the studio. I hadn't recorded my own music for a long time, and I went in armed with a mobile phone with a load of ideas on it, and started from there. And it's turned into a bit of a social commentary, I guess, of the world I see around me, put to music.
So Open the Vein is all about your thoughts and feelings at this time.
Yeah. I think even if people don't agree with your opinion or your sentiments, they will always appreciate your honesty. Mm-hmm. And it's just a little window of me looking at the world and writing it down and putting it to music. Probably quite angry. There's tunes that relate to looking over your shoulder at a time gone when, better times, I don't know. But they certainly feel like, in terms of how humanity treated each other when I was a kid, and how people had more time and were less selfish than they are. That's about it, really.
Just in terms of the 432 and people that have tuned that way.
Yeah.
Just give us some examples.
Oh yeah. Well, people call 432 tuning Verdi tuning or natural tuning. Now, I've only scratched the surface of this, but I used an instrument on the album called an auto harp or an omnichord, which is like a harp-shaped instrument. It's got about 16 strings on it, maybe 24 strings, I can't remember. They come in different sizes. And rather than strumming it, I was plucking the strings and playing melodies on the strings. And when you pluck a string on an auto harp, the box vibrates, and this creates sympathetic harmonies in the other strings. So you're hearing notes that are being made by the harmonies of the other strings vibrating in sympathy with the string you've just plucked. And there's an experiment for someone if you ever want to do this. Next time you're near a grand piano or an upright piano, if you lift the lid up and do a ah or sing a note into it, the note that you create will make the strings that are tuned to that note or close to it will ring in sympathy, and you will hear this noise coming back from the strings reverberating. And at 432, you get a lot more of that. It's picking up harmonic points as well on the guitar, most people play harmonic, which is like pinging the string to get a pure note on the 5th, 7th and 12th frets, and you can get it on the 9th, but it's quite difficult. Now when you tune to 432, it's easy to get it on the 3rd fret and the 9th fret and other frets in between, which suggests to me that the string is in the right place for the string.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you were going back to the 440, you learnt that Goebbels insisted that all German propaganda music to accompany the nutcase ranting from the balcony was to be recorded in 440, because it's a more of an irritating external experience, which is a bit of a that's a bit of a vague description. But when you think about all pop music and the metronomic beats of all the kind of I listen to modern music now, and it's all seems to be the same chord progressions, and it's all at 440. So maybe this is the propaganda to keep us all dumb listening to Little Mix. That's no disrespect to Little Mix, they're okay.
Yeah. Okay, going back to yourself then. Tunes on the album, I mean, you captured these over, I think it's from like 8 years since you put yourself to...
Yeah.
Actually recorded some music, isn't it?
Yeah.
So has this been, are they all recent songs, or are some built up over time?
No, everything on this record is it was recorded for this record with that kind of manifesto, if you like. And there was tunes that I'd written in between that I could have included, but it just didn't seem right to include it with these other things, these other tunes, these new songs, because they were all of a theme. Like there's a song I play live called "Don't Go Yet," which I think is one of my the best songs I've ever written, about me friend who committed suicide. And I've tried to record it like 4 or 5 times, and I go in and I've tried to record it with a band, and it just doesn't sound right. And I would have liked to have included it on this record, but it doesn't really fit with the rest of them, and I'm still trying to get it right. So I've kind of like reached a point with it now, is where when I play live, I always talk about my friend who was the influence behind the song, and maybe it should just live in the rooms when I play it and not be committed to anything that's permanent.
And I've seen you live a few times. You know, that really affects people, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, because I set them up for it. Like I've played it enough times, and I always say to people, you know, have a think about maybe someone who you lost too soon and someone who should be here, and they do. And I think I haven't actually got written records on it, but there's usually one person crying, or who will come up to me afterwards and admit to being moved by it, because it's something. I mean, it's a very loss is something that unites all of us. We've all experienced that, unless you just come out the womb. As soon as you're conscious, you know, the saddest occasions of your life is the people you lose on the way. And the strange thing about those sad occasions is the effect they have on us, you know, especially from guys I know who lost their fathers when they were young, and it affected them in a massive way. And yet we don't take photographs of these sad times. And yet I always had this an idea for a movie that, if you know, when somebody dies, they have like a 36 exposure film canister in their head, and you take it out, and that 36 exposures tells the story of their life. And them 36 exposures wouldn't be like a holiday album. Of course, there would be, you know, the New Moon Party in Phuket, or you know, Standing on Ayers Rock. But there'd be your father's funeral, your mother's funeral, the birth of your, or, you know, and these things, loss is something that defines us, but it's something that's never recorded past a mass card or an order of service, and a headache the next day after the wake, when we all sit there and talk about the deceased and wish that they were still here.
A couple of years ago, I was on holiday in Spain with my family, and I got a phone call off a mate who knows I'm on holiday, so you know it's bad news. And he got in touch with us to tell us my mutual friend had hung himself, and he was a posh fella, and I feel robbed that way. The world has been robbed of a brilliant, grumpy old man. He was a right narc. He was a narc, proper, but a good lad, and you know, good heart and all the rest of it. And the weird thing about my relationship with him, I knew him for 15 years, and I never knew in all that time he was a Frankie fan. So on the day of his funeral, I got a phone call in the morning, and his brother-in-law says, "Can you bring a copy of Two Tribes to the crematorium?" And it's like, what? It's a bit of a strange request. Not like I've got copies of it lying around the house, you know. So I think I had to download it and burn it off. And it's only when I found out that he went into the church to Us and Them by Pink Floyd, and he came out of the creme to on the way out of the church to Two Tribes, and after the waking out, his mate stood up and he said, when this record came on, he never failed to get up and dance, and he said we even worked out that it was actually 3.7 pints of Indian Pale Ale was the thing that triggered it. I think it was that last third of a pint was the thing to get him up. So this is a song for my friend Kevin, who's no longer here, and we get robbed of people who get taken away from us, but they can never take what's in here. And so if you've lost someone recently and had someone taken away from you, they're still with us. They're in there. I believe that we are all condensed energy. That's what, yeah, he's gone right off on one here. Don't go yet.
A bit of a faster echo there.
For Kevin White.
I'm not happy with that. Give us a minute. I want to back that off a bit. Back that off a bit.
What you sow, no sorrow. And will we ever get to know? I don't think so. I never got to see you go. Last time to the ones we loved and lost, until the next time. You're getting in over your head. The sky outside your window ain't blue just yet, but just don't go yet. Don't go yet. To the ones you left behind, where did you go? I bet it never crossed your mind. I wouldn't think so. You're getting in over your head. You think that's gonna help you to stay in bed, but just don't go yet. But just don't go yet. 'Cause we got some important shit to talk, and you never got to tell me just how much you like that song I used to play. thinking about your family and friends instead. But just don't go yet. 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 Don't go yet. Don't go yet. Don't go yet.
That's one song that isn't on your album.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot we're talking about the new album. Yeah.
Couple of interesting songs that are on there. You talk about loss and things like that. XO, just tell me
Yeah,
about
I was.
XO.
My neighbour lived next door, but one to me who's an Indian guy called Amit Majmudar, and I used to go out with him. In the area of London, I live in North Finchley. There are kind of like specific Indian places where the Indian people go. When Liverpool would play Chelsea, he was a Chelsea fan, and he would say, "You coming out?" And we'd go to some of these places. So the lyrics of the song, the opening verse of the song is the sun and sand, swan and pyramids, man. At the Ivory Suite, you can sit down if you want to. Those three places are all these Indian clubs. And the first night I had out with Amit was in the sun and sand. And it's someone who's your neighbour, but it's the first time you go out and have a beer with them and you kind of find out who they are. And he was a great guy. So on these several Saturday and Sunday afternoon jaunts, we would end up at the GK2, and he would say the last shot of the day would either be a Hennessy XO or a Woodford, which I think is an American bourbon. And so these Indian guys don't like their pints. Well, not the ones that I was drinking with. And it would always be the short, and you would always hope it wasn't your round, because the Hennessy XO comes in at about £7.50 a glass. But so Amit died of cancer about 3 or 4 years ago. He'd moved out to Vancouver with his wife and started a family. He was doing great, and gets struck down in the prime of his life, you know, when things were really looking good for him. So I can't write songs about, you know, I have to have a subject to write about, and the departure of Amit was something that fired that in me, and I had this quite up-tempo thing which kind of described my afternoons with him. Were definitely up-tempo. Although the walk up to the pub was up-tempo, the staggering back was probably a little bit downbeat.
Yeah. So, you mentioned writing songs there. Just tell us your process. How do you write? Do you need certain things in place before you write?
Well, like for example, the opening track on the album, "Salt in Our Veins." Coming from Liverpool, you know, obviously a city with a very rich and vast musical heritage. Being a Liverpool musician, most Liverpool musicians have written songs about Liverpool, and I'd never done it because, one, there are so many great songs that have been written that yet to live up to it. You know, starting, Ferry Cross the Mersey. Does this? My mate Ian Prowse wrote a great tune. Does this train stop on Merseyside, which has, become a bit of an anthem for the city. And I watched the Time team did a special about the lost dock of Liverpool when they were building Liverpool 1. And Tony Robinson was down on the docks. They found the original docks and explained how this, what basically was the heart of the empire, came from a fishing village, about someone having the idea to build this dock and paying, I think it was $6,000 he borrowed against the city of Liverpool that he owned, or the land, and built this dock. And you know, within years, it's become this massive thing, and that gave me a title about we have salt in our veins, because we, you know, without the sea and the maritime connections, there wouldn't be no Liverpool. And I had this title for 3 years. I'm going, that's a great title. It's a great title to write about Liverpool, but how do I write about Liverpool? Got nothing else to go with it. What is it for me that distinguishes Liverpool from every other city that I've visited in this country? Is the population. And I'm sitting there just strumming away, and I get this line, my sisters and brothers were not like the others, and that's what started it off. And I decided to write this kind of like a potted history of Liverpool, from being the core of the empire to where it is today, which is, you know, couldn't be further from the city I left. You know, we've been on a few we've had a few beers in Liverpool, and I had a walk around some of the parts that, if I'd have walked you around there 30 years ago and said to you, you know, this is going to be, well, mate, 30 years from now, you'd have got laughed out of town. And the interesting thing about that is, if let's apply those 30 years to the future, where will it be 30 years from now? You know, when maybe people get bored of having their HSBC or any of these big multinationals in London, and go, you know what, we can move out there, because the plans are there to build 6 skyscrapers at the on the waterfront of Liverpool. And I say, being in Stoke and seeing the areas around here that have got magnificent buildings that the local people maybe do have an appreciation for, but they've got no money to do it. The government in this country ain't going to throw any money up here, because, well, especially a Tory government, because the people here don't vote for them, largely. And it took people from Europe to come to Liverpool and say, wow, you got these amazing waterfront properties, you know what I mean, standing 150, 200 years, and they're derelict. And, you know, so let's do something about it. And that was the initial investment, I think, that brought the commerce that came in after it, which is, you know, as we discussed before, it doesn't always bring positivity, because there's always going to be moaners. People will always have a moan about something. And the stuff that gets torn down and replaced with some real nondescript rubbish in Liverpool, you know, you look at a silhouette of the Liverpool skyline, you know what it is. You got the Liver buildings, you got the 2 cathedrals, and the Radio City beacon, or the tower. And now we've got a couple of things that are interfering with our skyline that take away from that, and they're not outstanding examples of architecture, which these other buildings were. But you know what? We've got to look forward, and you know, maybe when they will have 6 absolutely outstanding skyscrapers built when, you know, if this planning goes ahead and the money is found, and that leads to more, and maybe we'll end up with a skyline like, you know, Hong Kong. Who knows?
Who knows? Going back to that sort of rebirth of Liverpool, was that around City Culture time? Was it just before that?
The City of Culture just planted the flag, I think. And obviously, if there is a boom in business, however small, commerce and external interests are always watching that. So, you know, when you think you go back 25 years, you wanted to stay in a hotel in Liverpool, you had a choice of about 5. Now I think we've got 5 travel lodges, and I think we've got 5 Premier Inns in the city centre, which means the Adelphi is somewhere that nobody wants to stay in. And you look at that building and think somebody's got to buy that and spend some money on it, because it's a magnificent building. But, you know, sometimes you do have to look forward. And we had an instance recently where the Futurist Cinema was knocked down on Lime Street, and they've cleared a whole bunch of Lime Street, and they're going to build more student flats, which obviously people are objecting to that, because it just seems like people are coming in from outside, investing and making money out of the city and out of visitors to the city. And there was a big uproar about the Futurist, and as within 30 minutes of the planning permission being granted to knock it down. They bulldozed it. There was never going to be any way for an appeal. And a load of people were up in arms, oh, this amazing Art Deco cinema, you know, and you go online and you Google pictures of it. And of course, it does look amazing. But for the last 20 years, it's been a home to pigeons with no roof on it. And if you were that concerned, why weren't you concerned 30 years ago when it first closed down? You can't let, sometimes, you know, people get sentimental to hold on to the past. And I think if they, like for me, I would have said, knock the whole lot down and let's have a big square, a huge meeting place, so that when you come out of Lime Street Station as a visitor to the city, you get to see a building that's been closed for 20 years in St John's Market, which is 1970s architecture, probably at its worst. Whereas we could have a Trafalgar Square in the centre of Liverpool. Like all big major cities have great squares, and we're going to have some student flats. But you know what? It brings more people to the city, and the city grows, and it brings people like my daughter, who was born in London, went to university there and never came home. And her boyfriend from Newcastle, exactly the same thing. He went to university there, never came home. And they're one of many, many people. So the city is expanding and it's changing and it's becoming more multicultural. It's always been multicultural, but now it's become a multicultural from within our own borders. You know, in terms of the Geordies, the Midlanders, the people from the south coast who are all coming to this place and going, you know what, this is bouncing, and it is. And you know, part of the reason it is bouncing is because these people are making it bounce as well, and the Liverpudlians are out because we've always been very proud of the city. So it's going to be interesting if Stoke gets that, and I hope it does, because I can see. I've got, as I said to you yesterday, I've got friends in Perth and in Stoke, but I think Stoke needs the money more than Perth. I swear, we've just seen the architecture around here, like outside this building, just stunning and criminal that it's going to waste. You know, when it could be something else. All right, you know what? Even if it's going to be a Tesco's, let it be a Tesco's, but let's clean it up and let's have a bit of pride in it. Yeah, of course. So,
sorting your veins, that you about to do a video for that, or you've been doing a video for that? We'll see that soon, will we?
Yeah, I've been doing what everyone else does these days on pilfering YouTube for clips of old Liverpool, and I've got a friend who's got a boat on the Albert Dock, so I asked her if I could film the video on the front. So I got a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the background for free on my friend's boat. But it was great going through, sifting through the footage, and there's a shot of a sootied old St George's Hall, completely black, and come into the frames a guy walking about 25 herd of cattle. This is like 1926 in Liverpool. You know, very different place, a very different place then. You know, life expectancy was, we'd have been dead. We'd have been dead 20 years ago, man. You know, no chance. But it's it's great. It was like looking back at bits of Liverpool that I remember, and the old Pathé newsreels, which were incredible. There's a fantastic one called FA Cup Heroes Welcome. I guarantee you've got to go online and view this. It's on Pathé News have put 18,000 clips up, and amazing. You know, like if you put in Stoke 1970s, there will be stuff about in this area, and it's great. And it's great that they've made that available. But there's one showing Liverpool winning the FA Cup, and we're all probably quite familiar with the scenes after Istanbul, which was quite epic around the centre of the town of St George's Hall. But it was nothing on this 1965. Like the town hall, from the town hall to the flyover, it shows this camera shot, and you can't see the street, and it's got to be about half a mile long, both directions. And it's got that old, you know, the old commentary. And here they are in Liverpool, and everybody wants to see the FA Cup. There was about 70 odd people injured in the crushes and that, and police horses. It's a great curve. Yeah. Heroes Welcome, Liverpool, 1965.
Google that and have a look at it. So we're going to play Sorting Our Veins next. that was Salt in Our Veins by Nasher. Great song, great production on that as well, Nasher. I mean, you mentioned you got it mixed and mastered elsewhere.
Yeah, I've recorded it on a mixing desk the same size as the one you got in front of you there,
Yeah.
with one microphone, all through the mini jack on a laptop. And this is, I could have made it sitting here. I could have made it sitting anywhere. I surrounded myself with an arsenal of instruments, but I was very fortunate in. A long time ago, I met a guy called Adrian Bushby as a 16-year-old tape-op in a studio, who went on to, he's just worked with everyone. He's won 2 Grammys for his engineering work with Muse and the Foo Fighters. So, and I'm also godson to his and Hannah's 2 kids. So when I was round at his house and he was saying to me, "What are you doing? About, you've been doing any record?" I went, "Yeah, it's going great." And he said, "Who's mixing it?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't even got that far yet." And he went, "I'll do it." So I got,
Grammy Award winning.
a Grammy Award winning engineer for mixer for nothing. And then I took it to my mate Martin, Martin Russell, who's been a sounding board for me ever since I started doing this stuff on my own. And he was always really encouraging, always very constructive with his comments on the songs and that. And he recorded the first time I ever went into a studio and sang songs of my own. And, when you do something like that, it's the reaction of the people who you work with can have a big, can feature in how you go forward from that. And he was so encouraging, and he's someone whose opinion I respect so much, because I've heard the work he's done, and I know he knows his craft, and he knows. And for him to come back to me and go, "Oh, the song's a monster and it's buzzing," means more than anything, really. Which seems a bit, whilst musicians would love sales in their millions, it's approval of our peers and other musicians who, not to disrespect the person who's on the buying end, the punter end of it, but if you get a pat on the back from good musicians, you're getting it because they know what was involved in getting it to that, because they're in the same game, and that always means a lot. So he got to master it, pump some air into it, and my friend in Liverpool, Peter Reynolds, did the designs. I gave him a pretty appalling photograph and gave him the actual concept of it, and he picked it up and ran with it. And the presentation of it, the sleeve itself looks great, and I've had just as many comments about how it looks. I think because presentation is everything,
First impressions, isn't it?
It is an interesting thing, actually, because this was something that Peter said to me, because the sleeve is black. When you get a digipack, normally, like at the lowest price you can get it done, you open it up and there's a white line down the middle. And he said, "Right, we're not having that. That'll just look terrible. So you're going to have the inside printed as well." And it's like, it's an extra 19p a copy.
Yeah.
But look at it though, when you open it up, where the wallet is, it's printed inside, and he's absolutely right. I won't tell you, quote him exactly what he said about the white line in the middle, but he said it wouldn't look very good.
Talking of white lines, there's one called "Prostitutes and Cocaine" on
Yeah,
the album as well.
An ode to George Osborne. I mean, at the time, I'm feeling less angry about George Osborne now, because he's disappeared. He disappeared with the rest of the rats off the sinking ship just before he threw Theresa May under a bus. And I don't know. It'd be funny. I'd love him to hear it and see what he thinks. But my missus said to me, "Can he sue you?" And I went, "No, I don't think so." And she said, "Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, here's me gets the million seller, and I end up getting sued by George Osborne for the lot."
I'll drop him a copy in now. He's editing on
Yeah.
Evening Standard.
Yeah, that'd be the one. That'd be a funny one, wouldn't it? Getting it reviewed in the Evening Standard.
That's the name.
That is, yeah. I think I can get that. I think I might be able to get that sorted. I'm just being a bit lax. I need to chase that up.
We'll sort that. Yeah. We'll aim for that. forget the name of the one that features lots of Saturday night references.
Just Sound Like Noise.
That's it, yeah. Love that song, and it's just, I'd recommend anyone to. I'll play it after we've chatted about it, but just tell us a little bit about that song.
Oh, it's a look over the shoulder at our childhood in the 1970s and Saturday night television, as opposed to what we've got now, and the way people consume their entertainment these days is very different. Whereas, you know, when we were kids, it was everybody was round the TV on a Saturday night. You'd eat your dinner. You'd never eat your dinner watching the telly, would you? I don't know about... No, you'd have to be sitting at the table, yeah. So we'd all sit down and we'd watch, you know, Doctor Who and the Generation Game and Morecambe and Wise and the Two Ronnies, and it was the whole family was engaged. And it's quite weird, actually, when you look at the popularity of Gogglebox, because they've got to be the only families in the country who watch TV like that, because it's not like that in my house. I don't know, you know, I don't sit and watch the same TV as me missus, and my kids have both got TVs upstairs in the room, so we don't, like, I'll be watching a game of footy on telly, my lads and my daughter will be watching the same game, but we won't be sitting there watching it together. And there's something sad about that, and you know, there's a song talking about going out and playing football in the park, and you know, I could be accused of wearing rose-tinted spectacles, but I don't think it was. I think it was great. We were more of a community, and we went out and played together. Now, you know, the kids are terrified. They can't go out to play anywhere because the mothers think they're all going to be taken away by murderers or paedophiles.
Yeah.
And that's a fear that has been engendered over that time. Like, you know, we didn't have mobile phones when we were 10 and 11. We go with summer holidays, that'd be, you know, for me, it'd be, we're going up Lord Derby's estate and go walking for 5 or 6 miles. And, you know, you'd have 2 pence to make a phone call, and your man never worried about you being, you know, anyway, because she knew you weren't out on your own. You were with loads of other people who she all knew, and there was all that thing from all the people who lived in the close. And, yeah, great times, you know, really, no stress and no, I don't know, maybe that's just being a kid, isn't it? You just playing kiss chase with girls and playing footy, so you're not wondering about where your next pound note's coming from, because it's in your dad's pocket, you know. It
evokes great memories. It's great.
Songs, yeah. Do you know, I put the sound clips in there totally without clearance, and because I think Jim Bowen would be pleased to be in there. And the weirdest thing about using those audio clips, again, YouTube, a great source for it. Nick the audio off YouTube, and the Two Ronnies and the Generation Game bits, I chopped them down to where they were in the actual length, and I just went, recording digitally, just went, oh, it'll be about there, and that'll be about there, let's put that. Yeah. And I played it back, and they both landed perfectly. There was no adjustment required. So that just said to me, well, that's just meant to be there. And it does, what a fluke. I mean, you've heard it, you hear how it lands, and it's like, yeah, that's great. And, you know, what have we got? A Saturday night TV, Strictly Come Dancing. You know what, if that's what floats your boat, brilliant. I don't mind it. It's good, and it's quite entertaining TV, and it's of a standard. But the rest of it, you know, pretty depressing viewing, especially if you watch Channel 5. Yeah. Make you feel left out if you're not on benefits.
Well, again, I can't watch TV anymore. You know, I very rarely watch anything on TV.
No, because it's, I don't know, is it dumbing down? Do people just, you see, my wife watches some shocking television, and she says, you know what, when I finish my very stressful job, I just want to come home and veg out and watch something I don't have to think about. That, yeah. You know, people go and do gardening, or people go to the gym and they deal with it in their own way, and my missus watches Say Yes to the Dress.
Don't even know what that is, but never mind.
Oh, mate, it's a belter. It's a belter.
Let's not talk about that now. So we'll play that song right now.
Just Sounds Like Noise.
Super, smashing, great. Look at what you could have won.
Saturdays are not the same. I wish I could. Just sounds like noise.
was a racket, was it?
That just sounds like noise from Nasher. Is there any favourites on there? Have you got a personal favourite on the album that we haven't mentioned yet?
I like Still Can't Find the One, because it was written about a trip to the Cork Jazz Festival with my dad 18 months after he almost died in hospital, and me and my sister had the talk of, like, you know, he's not well, and if we're not going to try and resuscitate him. But he's been ill all of most of his life. He's suffering from bronchial asthma and all sorts of stuff. So he was a bit of a lionheart, you know. He wasn't ready to go, and he came back from the dead. So it's my mate, who's a doctor, nicknamed him Lazarus after that. And he was a big jazz fan, and someone who probably started my love in music, and he always had time to listen to the stuff that I wanted to play him. Like, I'm going to go and listen to Ultravox and Magazine and the Pistols and all that. And he would try and do me back with Miles Davis, which I never got. I could never get the jazz thing, but because he didn't have any singing, you know. And I was a kid. But I got Etta James, Billie Holiday, Nina Simone, Ella. You know, Ella Fitzgerald. One of the first records I ever played was a kid that I knew all the songs on was Ella Fitzgerald Sings Cole Porter, which is just great. A stunning version of Miss Otis Regrets by Ella Fitzgerald, which you should find. It's genius. It'll tear your heart out. We go to Cork and we go to the Jazz Festival. We go to see Chick Corea, and my dad's not really a big fan. Well, he said he wasn't, and since he died, I found a load of Chick Corea in his record collection. I never played any of it. And I'm sitting in the audience, and we're listening to this tune. I'm trying to work out where the downbeat is, where the one is. And I'm looking around me, and all these guys are grooving away, listening to Chick, and the bass player and the drummer giving it 10-0. And I'm thinking, what are these guys grooving to? They're snapping the fingers and getting into it, and I can't find the one. And I thought that would be, Still Can't Find the One would be a good song to try and write an ambiguous song about, is he looking for the one, or is he looking for the lost love of his life? And that was too much of a brain ache. It's going to take someone much cleverer than me to write that song. So I just decided to write it about going to Cork Jazz Festival with my dad. And there's some quite, because it's a jazz thing, it's in the time signature's 5/4, which is quite unusual. 5/4, Dave Brubeck, take 5 is in 5. So if you want to know, listen to that and then you know what it is. But I was saying last night at the gig, doing all this like quite soulful singing at the end. I was like, it was me trying to be like Luther Vandross, but it was, but it's quite good. I got quite into it, you know. I was trying to make the arrangements and the vocal arrangements quite complicated. So because it's 5/4, we'll try and complicate it more and more. And it was interesting. It was great to record. So that's probably one of my favourites.
Yeah, I think seeing you live, that's one of my favourite live tracks.
It's the live version of it's completely different to what it is on the record, because I haven't got a band. I would love to be able to be playing out with a band playing these tunes.
All the layers and all that sort of depth, even live, you know what I mean? With effects and things like that. Fantastic. Nash, it's been great to have a chat and catch up.
Cheers, man. Always good to see you.
We'll get you back up in August.
Sweet.
Probably get you to play a couple of these live on air.
Yeah. I'll bring my car and bring some weapons with me.
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, man. Thank you.